On the number 59 bus between St Mark's and St Pancras, I watched the world, oozing and sliding in a smooth, easy sleepwalk away through the right-hand window, loosening and washing in a simple wave away on the wind, and drifting past, and passing on, and going, and passing by, and going away, and passing away, and slipping like a loose lip off a lip, and sliding by, and drifting away, slipping off the surface of itself, and dripping away, flapping off like a frightened finch, dribbling off our lives' roofs like rainwater, and flowing, flowering, fleeing, and washing away. I believe there is never a time when I am not seeing all of this for the last time. Every moment some deranged, boisterous, foolhardy specimen of reality barges its way past all the likely obstacles and into existence, marks the last moment it will ever be real. Even as a shadow, this city cannot exist tomorrow, nor can yesterday's city exist today. Do not try and live every day as if it was your last, viewer. Every day is your last, and the same person who started watching this film will not be the same person who stops watching it. Today, like every day, is your day of judgment, and the world is being thrown to you like a ball. On Aldwych, opposite the counter at the Delaunay, I swap sides of the bus and look out the left-hand window at this probably very unhappy woman with all these bags, and these people waiting for the bus to pass, and these people at this Pret, and these chaps, and this woman clearing this table at Café Rouge, and these folks outside Café Nero, and these folks, and these, and this street garbage, and this scarf guy, and the light on this building, and these phone boxes, and Russell Square, and these kids, and these windows, and Tavistock Square, and these signs, and this, and the buses outside Euston. Then my banana explodes in my bag and I have to fish out its slimy flesh with my bare fingers and hold on to it like some disgusting symbolic aborted fruit fetus. I search around St Pancras for a suitable bin, but cannot find one because my country apprehends dastardly terrorist bin acts. I, for one, would risk a handful of bin bomb booms a year if it meant having hands less full of this foul fruit. I find a bin outside St Pancras almost immediately and retract my overzealous comments in fear of karmic bin bombs. Inadvertently, I land somewhere in North London where, beneath the tender melodious chirrups of early spring drilling, I admire this red balloon, not dissimilar to the red balloon in Albert Lamorrice's The Red Balloon, or indeed roughly 1.010101% of the balloons in Nina's 99 red balloons. I also spy this young whippersnapper being pushed on scooter by its hunching mother and no doubt burdened with all manner of maternal dependency issues. Also this guy begging. It's crocus season, so the crocuses are more relevant than usual. I like crocuses but have absolutely nothing to say about them, which is the way one feels it ought to remain, despite the exponentially increasing temptation as one enters maturity of a kind, to blurt from rooftops and podiums, "Alas, how like unto a crocus is youth." I hope I never have too much to say about crocuses. The greatest tribute you can pay anything on earth is to have nothing to say about it, and to say it. Day-to-day reality is in desperate need of nothingness. Just think how much better sheer nothingness would be than these dregs of WKD a few feet from the crocuses. I arrive at Hampstead Heath and trounce up Parliament Hill, which feels decidedly sterile today. If I found myself in the market for some hardcore sterility, Parliament Hill would not be my first port of call, but today, for some reason, this place is surpassing in its impotence many a more obviously sterile airport, hotel or hospital. You never can tell, I suppose, when sterility will strike. Perhaps at the heady summit of the mountain of my youth and happiness, luminously joyous beyond all imagining, in an utter fairy tale of love, beauty and divine grace, with an indescribable music bubbling over the walls of my heart, sterility will strike harder than it ever has before. Or perhaps it will happen the other way around. Either way, I'm game. I open my packed lunch to discover that my PB&J sandwich has leaked not inconsiderable amounts of its PB onto my P. P standing for pear. This does not concern me. Eating the sandwich dispels all sensations of sterility with immediate effect, and I swiftly surrender my heart to this gnarly, grotesque trunk onto which I spread homages to F.W. Murnau with my shadow. I wish F.W. Murnau, preferably in a fluffy animal uniform, was here to share these long shadows with me and advise me on the geometry of my shot choices and make gorgeous sweeping statements about the similarity of the filmmaker's camera to the poet's pencil. I think F.W. Murnau and I could get a lot done with long sharp shadows, tree trunks and a peanut-soiled pear. I don't know what it would be, but I know it would be beautiful in the way a dolphin bisecting a rainbow is beautiful. Then, in a celebration of all the things that I cherish and value, which I may need to learn to let go of, I toss my camera into the air and chant my hymn to transitory glory. If there were any more glory to be had than all the glory all the time, in all shades, temperatures and modalities, I would have it. Even if there weren't, I would have it. Give me better than the best you've got, God. That's my absolute minimum requirement. What do you mean, no? I put the camera into my pocket without remembering to turn it off, which produces uncomfortable footage. I believe I would resent spending 4 years in a pocket, or even a week. Don't get me started on 2 centuries. John Keats, the great medical student who, in a bizarre, ill-advised career twist that not a lot of people know about, went on to become a poet, lived a stone's throw from here 2 centuries ago. He may even have written his famous Prescription to a Grecian Nightingale exactly where I am standing now. I lie out the front of Kenwood House and stare at the sky, trying to count how many of it there are and counting 1, before drifting off to sleep and waking up to find Bort there. Bort and I walk down a leafy tunnel, get thanked for our respect of the dog bylaws, and stare into a Rococo mirror, wondering what mirrors would be like if the dominant species was buildings and buildings lived inside people. We spend the ensuing 4 hours or so playing catch, a wholesome game which all can enjoy and rarely erupts, it seems to me, into disgusting misery and horror. Bort, sated, leaves, and I sit at this view description placard, recreationally achieving supreme enlightenment. I have, in recent days, been endeavouring to attain a version of supreme enlightenment that still lets me scream, behave like an idiot, react to events with irrational childish rage, and attack my enemies with unrestrained wrath. This leg, to the left of my leg, hides some lunch which I duly steal. Night then swiftly falls, as if to admonish my actions, and I walk to the tube past some barred yet lit rug emporiums, which also purvey, for those of a papish inclination, gold-framed Madonna with child paintings. The Northern Line home is even drabber than usual. On the way to Westminster Chapel, where I'm going instead of St Matthew's this morning, I see this and 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 these railings and this 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 and these trees and this and this and this and this and all of this and this and these and these, yep, and this and these 2 signs and this. But I don't consider any of it worth noticing, so I don't notice it. I just see it. The more of life you successfully fail to notice, the more of it you see. If you catch yourself noticing this film as you watch it, watcher, you are not watching it. Until you utterly disregard every sentence I say and every shape you see slicing up your screen, I will not reach you. The only way one human being stands the remotest chance of reaching another, this one for example, is by paying them zero heed. If you are not aspiring to total obliviousness and ignorance of the rollerbladers you see before you now, how on earth do you expect them to communicate with you? How on earth do you expect to appreciate your brothers and sisters on this earth, let alone live in peace and harmony with them, if you won't observe the basic courtesy of ignoring them? The only hope humankind has of attaining universal love is by never quite realising there is anything out there to love. I do not, of course, believe this. It's a warm day. I, and the man I'm with, Abelard, walk from Hyde Park through an expensive chunk of the city, which is glowing today like a coin in the sun, past this upturned pigtail girl bike and this custom-painted scaffolding modesty screen, to Battersea Park, where Abelard falls asleep. I sit by him and watch the sun pour through the Peace Pagoda and push the passing people's shadows up to my feet. I pay particular attention to this man and his child. Then Abelard leaves. The light on my walk home is sweet. I walk north past Battersea Station, which has been in a disquieting surgical state the whole duration of my stay in London, permanently porcupined by acupunctural cranes, which seem to announce the city and the nation's impending future, like clouds announcing hail. This gutted sperm whale of industry seems such an enormous concentration of matter and exertion for so little humanity that it feels like a town hall miles away from the nearest town, or a hospital in a graveyard. What else are you supposed to expect when something merely useful is injected with such enormity? This opposite-facing glass mess of impossibly expensive and arbitrary geometry, in its painstaking slickness and puritanical stylishness, is unoccupied, but for a few poorly paid cleaners. It reflects the anachronistic behemoth of post-usefulness back at itself with a sort of sterile wrath, spewing its golden chimneys in choppy, mutilated knots of squares, like the naked woman Duchamp got to walk down his staircase. It looks violently insane. What kind of disgraceful and depraved culture expends itself on this when there are so many people without a place to live, then pretends it's human housing and not a pharaoh's tomb? Like all attempts to decimate humanity, it impresses me, despite myself. What exactly are we building, our society, and who for, and why? Are we building for the present, or the future, for ourselves or for strangers, and why? Why are we doing that? All the buildings we have built, and all the buildings we have yet to build, will fall. They will topple into the same swamp of rubble, their loaded occupants and those who occupy their shade both forgotten alike. All the effort we have yet to put into any and all our projects, minute and enormous, will be devoured by the future like a leaf in the mouth of a locust. Are we content creating walls for the sun to shine on for a while and then melt through? Why? Are we trying to be remembered, or are we trying to make our own disappearance more noticeable? We all know that the ocean of loss is rising round us on every side, and that we cannot swim, that we cannot save ourselves or others, yet we go on devoting extraordinary amounts of effort and money and time and love and care into giving ourselves more and more to lose. I walk home past Embassy Gardens and look at the sunset on the river. Before I get to Vauxhall, I'm taken in by these faux classical statues of doubtful, probably 19th century origin, and wonder what they, an inaccessible generation's attempt to bind itself to an even more inaccessible generation, mean to us. We belong, I believe, to a generation which more than any generation before it feels justified in committing the generations that went before it to meaningless oblivion and irrelevance, the same state we have voluntarily plunged ourselves and our culture into. We are dragging the rest of history down into our depraved indifference to indifference to indifference. How can any argument for remembering the past be as persuasive as the present saying, "Who cares?" Human life before us has been regulated to a puddle of endless arbitrary information, perhaps rightly. There are, after all, more people alive today than all those who were alive and aren't anymore. Think how much more impressive our civilization will be than those of the ancients, once ours, like theirs, ceases to carry its own weight and falls. Think how much more impressive to future historians the M25 will be than Stonehenge. The next day I go to Hackney to have lunch with Clocker, but I arrive an hour early, so I walk south to find something, and find this. I don't know what it is. Some sort of symbolically loaded marquee round the back of an Orthodox church with a mysterious key attached to a gold 5-pointed star and mysterious graffiti by Ginger and Chaz, who came here 6 days before last Christmas and wrote in black inked capital letters, "Christmas the most happiest, lonely, time of the year, full stop," in unattributed quotes. Then also, I believe, note the similar handwriting, capitalization and pen type, wrote this. If so, one has to wonder, what kind of people are Ginger and Chaz? Why do they come here? I begin to build up a character, one which doesn't correlate with the author of "You just want to feel beautiful on the inside?" with totally random capitalization in pencil. I think that's pencil. I gaze at the ceiling and the shadows of the trees and my own shadow, which launches me into some wholesome hijinks in the art von F.W. Murnau, a man who, I've learnt since the last time I played thus with my shadow, had his head stolen by grave robbers 2 years ago. Grave robbers who lit candles around the corpse, perhaps to defer suspicion. I also learnt, though I might have guessed this, that F.W. Murnau fought against this country in the First World War as a pilot. He may even have attempted to land a bomb on the exact structure I am standing in. The shadow of F.W. Murnau's plane met his plane in crash form 8 times during the war, 8 plane crashes from which he emerged utterly unscathed. I feel the same could very well happen to me if I got embroiled in that whole enterprise of killing and being killed by foreign strangers. My shadow is my favourite part of myself, the part of myself I want saved in a cryogenic tube after I'm gone. If you want to know what I'm actually like, viewer, when no one else is looking, not even me, look at my shadow. The hour passes speedily, and I head to Clocker's and eat lunch by these flowers. After lunch, Clocker and I go to London Fields and sit under this tree and read. This woman, whose lunch I stole 2 days ago, joins us after a few minutes. I lie at the base of the tree, looking up at her and at it. A tree is a beautiful thing from the bottom of a tree, kind of like a synapse. I watch the woman reading, and watch Clocker reading, and read, and play with my shadow a bit. I think we are extremely cool looking people. We leave London Fields, go back to Clocker's, and watch the light fall in gorgeous rectangles on the wall. I look at some fire. On the Hackney Overground station platform, where I sit waiting for a train to take me home, I stare at this man, sitting on the opposite platform, with 3 bags, and wonder what he has in his 3 bags. I spend the whole of the next morning reading Montale's La Bufera e Altro and drinking glass after glass of water. Then, in a sudden burst of paranoia about my teeth, I go to St. Giles to try and get free dental care, resenting the idea of losing 20 quid on teeth emotions. I probably shouldn't resent it too much. By the time I'm an old man, going through genuine suffering, there probably won't be any free healthcare. At sunset, I go on a walk. I spend the whole of the next morning reading Selvon's The Lonely Londoners and drinking bottle after bottle of water. I choose a good place to read in that it gives me access to these hilarious men having a photo shoot. John Keats, I have discovered, sent a letter 2 centuries ago, today, to Fanny Brawne, the woman he loved, saying that old women are the greatest nuisance because they are too old for you to hit them with a stick. I can't say I agree with Keats on this. His position on art, however, is another matter. Whether or not I believe art can preserve some of these passing passions and pulsations of life in their quivering, cringing, volcanic ecstasies forever, I desperately want it to. I desperately long for the salvation of all moments, emotions and sensations, and not just the important ones, beyond illness and darkness and death, and believe, though it does so somewhat incompletely, art can preserve the rough melody of this day-to-day song of sense and registration, and reconcile the present to the past and the future. I hope that the feeling I get when I watch this woman throwing this ball can be secured and kept safe forever, and if not, that the loss of this moment and this feeling can strike me as just another part of its beauty, maybe even the sweetest part. Maybe loss isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe the aim of human life is to lose as much as possible, as tragically as possible with the brief time we have. Maybe the mission of art isn't to hold on to life but to hasten its vanishing. Whatever else I say, I really do adore this world and wish to make a loud, dumb show of hugging and kissing it to the embarrassment of all bystanders as it steps foot onto the sinking raft. The only word that I really mean with my whole heart is goodbye. A strained, soft, heart-poisoning goodbye to all these shreds and scraps of the weeks and days I am wading through, and the hours and minutes I love so much as they slide away from me. That is basically all I'm trying to communicate with these films. I'm trying to form, in advance, a proper goodbye to these crowds of disappearing preciousness before I lose my opportunity. Though it upsets me to see each thing vanish each day, I think if I can bring myself to scrape together from all this debris a real goodbye before I have to leave, the recognition won't, I hope, hurt anymore. So goodbye.